couple of months ago, I sent a text to Father Tony and Father Nathan Mudd, and I gave them salutations, for it was a great anniversary. It was a Saturday morning, January, and I said to them, today is the 7th anniversary of the Irene Johnson Odyssey, the grand finale of the Irene Johnson Odyssey. Now, you all are like, what the heck are you talking about? Who's Irene Johnson? Well, Irene Johnson is a figure in the history of myself, Father Tony, and other seminarians at the seminary with us at the time, 7 years ago. And her name has been changed for this story I'm telling you here, because, I don't want her to get in trouble. But the story is that year at the seminary, 80 guys, we were getting ready to go to the March for Life. And Father Nathan, then Brother Nathan, had been elected to be the leader of our trip. So it was up to him to book the bus, book the hotel, make all the plans, and get us there and back safe and sound. Well, like a good, holy, devout religious brother who's taken the vow of poverty, he decided to pick and choose the cheapest bus that would get us from Cincinnati to D.C. and back. A turn and burn. Okay? We have a saying in Spanish, lo barato sale caro, which is what is cheap ends up being very costly or expensive. So, I had done a turn and burn before, not comfortable, okay? Trips to the March for Life, they're always pilgrimages, you suffer. And I remember one year I was in the back of the bus on top of the wheels, and that was absolutely miserable because you feel every single bump. So I said, I'm going to sit in the front. So I sat in the front, and Miss Johnson, she gets on the bus. We were leaving maybe like 10 p.m. We're going to drive through the night, get to D.C. in the morning. She gets on the bus and she announces to all the seminarians, hello, my name is Irene Johnson and this is my first time. And I thought, okay, that's probably not a good sign. But anyway, it was a little bumpy headed to D.C., okay? We got there. At one point the brakes of the bus were smoking as we were going up and down the hills of West Virginia, trying to get to D.C. But we made it. We made it to D.C., okay? Thanks be to God. Now, the trip back was, I heard the seminarians say it. We thought we were going to die. We thought we were going to die. So, as you know, Father Nathan Mudd picked a turn and burn, okay, which means we get to D.C., we do the march, we get on the bus, and we're heading straight back, okay? Which means we're driving through the night back to Cincinnati. And our bus driver, I think typically buses are supposed to change drivers and after certain hours. Well, it didn't happen, okay? So we're heading back. And, of course, it's rush hour in D.C. It's slow. It's January, so it starts to snow. And we're driving through the mountains of West Virginia in the darkness, okay? Our bus driver starts to fall asleep, okay? It's snowing up and down these hills. We passing, jackknife trailers, on the side of the road, trailers split into multiple pieces, all this stuff. And you could hear the wailings of the seminarians as this thing swayed back and forth up and down the hills of West Virginia. Father Tony, he's so charitable. He's begging the driver. He's begging her, let me take the wheel, okay? Because you're falling asleep. They stop, get her coffee. No, she's still falling asleep, all this. And the seminarians wailed the whole way back. Well, miraculously, of course, they get back to the seminary, and the first thing Father Tony says is, we're going to offer Mass and thanksgiving to God for getting us back after this crazy trip, okay? They get ready for Mass. They set everything up. Father Tony gets to the gospel, and it's our gospel of today. Jesus asleep on the boat, and the disciples are scared to death. And they say at that moment, Father Tony didn't preach no homily. Everybody knew what the message was. Do you not trust me? Do you not yet have faith and realize that I am taking care of you? Okay, there was two things I wanted to share today. That was one of them. So 7 years from this great Odyssey of Eileen Johnson and the wonderful conclusion that our Lord had for us. The second thing, how this gospel came alive for me. You know, we're in the middle of this Eucharistic revival. The bishops of the United States have organized this great pilgrimage of our Lord, and many pilgrims are heading to Indianapolis. They're going to be coming through here next week to try to revive in the faith of American Catholics a devotion and a love to our Lord in the Blessed Sacrament. And a couple of weeks ago, as part of this movie was released called Jesus Thirsts. Jesus Thirsts. And the brothers and I, when these things come out, we're like, okay, are we going to watch it? Are we not going to watch it? Should we go? Anyway, it worked out. We went to go watch it this past week. And this is a little bit of a confession, but from the beginning of this revival, this movement, this thing organized by the leaders of our church here in the United States, I was a little bit, I'm not going to say cynical, that's probably too strong, but I was a little bit like, okay. Because for me, immediately my first thought was like, you know, this thing would have been nice maybe like 20 years ago or 10 years ago. And I almost felt like, okay, we're a little bit late to the party here. Okay. So this is kind of my interior status going into this thing, okay? And I know there's a little bit of discomfort for me because I'm like, you know, I probably shouldn't be feeling that way. I should be rejoicing, right? This beautiful thing, proclaiming our Lord in the Blessed Sacrament. So we're watching this movie, and the brothers are absolutely loving it. You know, Ray, you could hear his laughs and his little chuckles and things like that throughout the movie because he's seeing all these priests that he knows, and it's wonderful. It was a wonderful movie. But for me, I was a little bit like, okay, that's very nice, you know, and the things that were coming up, Bishop Sheen, Cardinal Van Tuan, all these figures that I learned about 15 years ago as I was discerning my vocation with this community, with the Fathers of Mercy, and I know them, you know. And in those days, some figures, some holy American Catholic religious priests were teaching me these things, and I'm sitting there kind of calling the game plan as this movie's going on. Okay, next is going to be Eucharistic miracles. Next is going to be, okay, Bishop Sheen a little bit here. So I kind of saw it all coming. And again, that really didn't help my kind of interior disposition. And like I said, it was a beautiful movie, and I recommend everybody to go see it. And as I'm praying through this thing, as I'm watching it and this kind of back and forth interiorly, it hit me. Why should I be indignant that someone has discovered these marvelous truths? Okay. Father Benedict Rochelle of happy memory, who told us one time in a group in a talk to us, he said, look, I'm going to be on the other side and you guys are going to be leading the church. You guys are going to be proclaiming Jesus. Father Benedict, Mother Angelica, Father Pablo Strauss, Father Thomas Dubé, these great religious, they're not on the other side wagging their fingers. They're thrilled right now. They are absolutely thrilled that the church in the United States as a whole is coming together to proclaim the gift that is the Holy Eucharist, that is adoration of the Blessed Sacrament. And for me, I thought, okay, what came to mind was the parable of the workers in the vineyard. You remember the workers in the vineyard? You know, the Lord hires these guys at 9 o'clock in the morning. He hires them at noon. He hires them at 3. He hires them at 4:55 in the afternoon, right before the bell. And then at the end of the day, he pays them all the same. Okay. And I thought to myself, well, I guess I'm the guy who got hired at maybe 3 p.m. because I'm not saying I was to the party early. Okay. I got hired at 3:30 in the afternoon, and I'm mad that somebody who got hired at whatever, 4 o'clock or 3:45 is getting the same joy out of life or getting the same goods from the Lord that I am. But I should rejoice because these truths of the Lord are being elevated by the American church. So I realized, okay, if I'm late on the boat of the Eucharistic revival, I hope they receive me because I'm on. Okay, and we're going to receive them here next week because they're coming through. They're going to be in Franklin next Sunday. They're going to be here next Monday, I believe. And I invite all of you to come and join us as we sing the praises of our Lord in the Blessed Sacrament. So let's get in the boat with Jesus. Let us let him lead us because he's directing us all together. I think it's a great day of rejoicing for the church in the United States. And at the end of that movie, I was filled with incredible hope and a joy because even through that movie, despite the difficulties throughout, it was converting my heart and getting me on board of this movement, okay? Because it's Jesus. It's Jesus. Why should we not rejoice? So let us be led by him, brothers and sisters, and beware of perhaps the Pharisaical tendencies that I found in my heart. And let us, with joy, proclaim the gift that is the Holy Eucharist. And let this leader, this Jesus, even though sometimes it seems like he might be asleep on the boat, let us trust in him and let him lead us because he will not fail us if we have faith in him.